To win a game of football, you've got to find that kid inside you. They are the most beautiful moments. He's the best player that I've played with. He run the league. He was 19. I love Ronaldinho. Forget his skills. Do you know how strong he was? West Ham were good people. And I just fell in love with them. We got relegated, right? That's one of my best seasons in my career.
Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Adebayo Akinfenwa, and welcome back to the Beast Mode on Pod. See, now today is mixed with skill, flair, and pure football intelligence. See, the man sitting opposite me is probably, or arguably, one of the most naturally gifted British players of his generation. See, me, a football purist. He's gone from dealing with hella hype as a kid to tearing it up in the Premier League for West Ham as a teenager, to being part of Chelsea's dominance. He went on to make magic moments which made fans stand up in awe. Beast Mode family, please give a Beast Mode welcome to my guy, Mr. Joe Cole. Yeah.
Yes, Geezer. You all right?
Yeah,
good to see. That was good, mate.
Thank you very much.
I've seen some true professionals at this game, and that was good.
Thank you, brother.
That was an introduction.
Thank you. All right, listen, on this podcast, what we like to do, we like to give flowers.
Right.
See, now, word is on the street. I hear as a kid, you had time, you know what I'm saying, when you was playing football, but you had time for gaming. You're a gamer. So one of your favourite games was GoldenEye? Is that GoldenEye?
Well, I wasn't a gamer. Then when I went to Lillishall, national school, then you're sort of, that was what, year 10. So what were I been in year 10? 14?
14, yeah.
We played GoldenEye. That's the first game. And I was,
007,
but
yeah.
because I get obsessive with things.
Yeah.
So I was like ridiculously obsessive with it. Oh, look at this. No way. Really? Oh, mate. That's amazing.
64. With your favourite game, 007, GoldenEye.
That's amazing, Geezer.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting that.
No,
that's
man.
proper.
We like to give flowers on here, and that's real talk. Yeah, that's yours.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah?
Yeah, man, that's yours, man.
007.
Right, this is real.
That's amazing.
This is real touch. Hey, listen, we proper right here. You know
I
what I'm saying?
appreciate
you. Give your time, so it's love. It's love.
Listen, I'll tell me agent, he'll want 20% of that. That's amazing. And it works and everything.
It works, man. Come on.
I can't wait to play that.
It works, proper. All right, you know what? We're going to take this back, and I'm going to say we're going to take this back. So You mentioned 14. I think we came across each other around that age. Yeah. 13, 14.
12,
12s, 13, 14s, right? So I tell this story all the time. Right? So you went to St. Aloysius. Yeah. I went to Heartbreak Grove. There was Holloway, and then there was Central Foundation. So there was I'd say the four horsemen. I think, I can't remember his proper name, but I think there was Bino. I can't remember what
Bino, yeah. Bino, he was at Central.
There was Jay Buffroyd.
At Holloway.
There was Joe Cole.
Yeah.
At St.
Aloysius.
And then there was Akinfenwa at Heartbreak Grove. I'm going to tell you this, and this is hand on heart. Still to date, right? One of my best feelings in games, right, was Heartbreak Grove got St. Aloysius in the semi-final of the Cup. Yeah. So Holloway got Central Foundation. So we already knew. See, this is the thing is we already knew about Joe Cole. Yeah. So we knew about Joe Cole. So we played you lot at your grass area. So it must have been at the back of your the back of your school, right? And I remember, so for these anime lovers, right? There's this anime that is called Kuroki's Basketball, right? So it's where they go to a tournament, and we went there, and I kid you not, I still got school friends.
Really?
There's one here now, and there's one of my best friends. We still talk about it. We're talking about 30 years on.
Yeah. We
beat you lot 3-2 in that game. And I swear to you, Joe, for us, it was the most football purist moment before going on to anything, because that was everything. As a kid, the score, especially when we beat you 3-2. Let me say, Jay, the way I gave a team talk, we put one man and sacrificed and just said, follow you everywhere. Listen, I can't remember, but let's just say you scored 2. But I remember when we scored, it went 2-2, and I don't think I scored the winner. I think a brother named Jamie scored the winner. And I remember us walking home from there. Joe Cole, it was the best thing still. Really? Where we beat St. Aloysius 3-2 with Joe Cole. I'm telling this now, because I don't think I've chatted to you about that. So ha, by the way, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to take it back to that. We knew about you. Yeah. Right? And from school, then we went on to Islington in Camden.
Yeah.
And it was, again, so good. I remember I could only get in as a centre-back. So we had the likes of John Hall, Jay Braithwaite, yourself. You know what I saw back then from you as a player to player, as a kid to a kid, right? I think our era was very much cage football, just playing in the park, playing on. What you did from a young age was you played the same way that I would play in the cage, with no points, no games on it, in actual games. So, and that, as a kid to a kid, I saw that. So playing with the man them, that was jokes. Playing for points or competition, that was, so my game changed.
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you flicked it over in the cage, you flicked it over a player's head for Islington. So I want to go back just to that. Where did that love of football, where was that? Where was the Joe Cole of a 12, 13-year-old that just seemed like he played the same way all the way?
Do you know what? First of all, them moments when you're a kid and you win a game like that, they are the most beautiful moments. And that's when you manage or coach a team and you become professional, you get a bit cynical, you get a bit older, and you're like, that's when you got to find, to win a game of football, you got to find that kid inside you, that, like you said, that just got that something. So I love them moments. That's brilliant. You said that. The reason I was a unique player as a kid, I was quite shy. My mum and dad, no football influence one bit. I didn't play for a team until I was nearly 12, right? So it was just, I like to be by myself. So I'd be up against the wall and I'd be practicing, but I always had this thing inside me. I'd be playing with the older kids on the estate. And it's like someone's 3-4 years older than you. They're usually a better footballer than you, because they can do things. But I couldn't accept that they could do things with a football that I couldn't do. Right, so it was like an obsession. So I'd be playing by myself and learning all my skills. But then I didn't play for a team. So I'd only played cage football. No one had told me how to play football. Barely football was on in my house. It was just never on, right? So when I went to a team, there's like, what position do you play? I went, because I was a bit nervous and shy, I went defender. So I was like, I didn't know, like, centre half, left back, right, defender. And I'm like 11 now. These kids at 11 now, they've probably played football since they're 4 or 5. They've got, it's on telly all the time. They'll know every tactics. I had nothing. So, but I could do everything for football that I wanted to do. Or that I saw anyone else do. And then, so then I went and played defender, and I just tried to dribble everyone. Then it was all of a sudden, it's like, where's this kid come from? So then I just sort of like, no. And then I'd run into some good coaches that, because I was so unique as a footballer, they didn't try and put me in a position. They just went, just go and play.
Just go and play.
And that happened right the way through. So there's a little bit of, I didn't understand. A little bit I was just playing, and a little bit of ignorance where I just thought, I'm going to do what I do in the cages, on the pitch, and nobody told me otherwise until I got to Lillishall at 15. The guy is a tough Yorkshireman, right? And he taught me, like, the football we would play, 4-4-2 positional, and it was like a crash course for 2 years. And I needed to have that side of the game as well, because you have to. But the exuberance you saw as a kid was just a little bit of all of that. Like I just wanted to express myself and show what I could do, and a little bit of ignorance as well.
Before I go on, and we'll talk about West Ham a bit, because you mentioned it, you was quiet. Like you was quiet, and when somebody says they light up when they've got a football, and that's what it looked like. You was a quiet, you know what I'm saying, but your relationship with a football was your relationship with air. If you understand what I'm saying. So and it's not glazing, I'm talking about from a kid to a kid. So my personality was I was always off size. Raised in the hood. I was off size, whereas you could see he was quiet, but you was the loudest with a football. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that is, it's crazy that you say it, because it seems like such a beautiful balance if you allow that to thrive. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what it seemed like it did. So let's go on to now West Ham. So of course I touched on the hype that was around your name. Do you know what I'm saying? But you chose to go to West Ham. At that time, did you be like, again, because you quiet, did you like, look, I belong at West Ham?
so like I said, I got the age of 12 and we played for my little Market Road team. Remember Market Road, Cromford Chapel, and then
oh snap!
Yeah,
we was Mayville, y'all was Chapel.
Yeah,
there was St Mary's.
Yeah, St Mary's. Yeah, Westwood, Bloomsbury.
Westwood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I went and played for them, and then all of a sudden, from not knowing that I could play football, my mum and dad were always very supportive of me. Right. They'd always like make sure they took me to track football. You know what I mean? Because they recognised I was a shy kid as well. So it's a big thing for me to go and meet new kids. And then I went to first time I played at Market Road. I think 3 scouts come up to my dad and remember the old cards.
The cards, yeah.
I'm Arsenal. I'm Tottenham.
Yeah.
And it was like, Mum, and my dad had no clue. Like, it didn't, and so he's like, I'll take you there. So then he's like, do you want to go to Arsenal on a Tuesday night at the JVC Centre? And I was like, for a kid, it's like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Went there, and I was like, all right, I'm one of the best players here as well. And then I went, do you want to go to Tottenham? Okay, on a Wednesday. So the best thing, like, talk about keeping you out of trouble. Like, I was going to a different club every night. I was training at Millwall, Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, West Ham. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, you know, this whole world opened up to me. And like, the only painful thing for me was, as a shy kid, was going into the dressing room initially. You know, it's like, even someone as confident, as brash as you, that moment you sign for a new club, you go,
listen, 100%. I always think I came across my first, what I'll call politics or shyness at the district. Like, I felt at district, their dads were there, they was on the side, they had a relationship with the manager. My parents never came because they worked. So that was the first time where I was, okay, well, you know what, this is a little bit different. So it doesn't matter. There's always an element that's just outside your comfort zone a little bit. So I understand what you're saying, going in and signing and being like, oh. But like I said, as soon as football came into it, it then just blends you and you just, this is what I'm here for.
That's what and so we'll go back to West Ham. So it got to the point after about a year, like, I think it was to do with, so I was under 13 to 14, so I had to sign for someone, whereas I was like, I'll play for West Ham 1 week. I was having a great time. And you know what as well, for another kid, like, they was giving me lots of stuff as well. Like they would give me like shirts. So all of a sudden I had a kid who had no football shirts. Like one, my mum and dad might be one. I had like everything. I had an Ian Wright shirt. I had a Chelsea shirt. I had tickets for games. Like and like I look, my kids now, right? So I used to get on the train and I'd get tickets for Chelsea. I was a Chelsea supporter as a kid, only because my mate at school was a Chelsea supporter. So I'd go and Chelsea would give me tickets. Then I'd go to West Ham, so I'd go to Upton Park. So it was like this mad education I was getting, just getting on the train in London, playing on a Saturday, then going to watch West Ham. And my mum and dad were just like, do you think nowadays, I was feral. I was free. 12 and 13. Like, they did not know where we was, right? And bless her, my mum, I love her. And like, it's like she's got this, I said, Mum, it's okay. She's like, no, it wasn't like that. I'm like, Mum, it was like that. It was like that.
You know the maddest, I say this because we parents now. And brother, I'm so rigid. I know where my kids are going, where they're training, but I couldn't even think about just getting on a bus for my kids getting on a bus. But that's what we used to do. We'd be like, brother, we travelled London like say we were travellers. But brother, that's why we're more resilient than the new generation.
Maybe it is, right? So it got to the point where I had to sign for somebody, schoolboy forms, right?
Yeah.
And I had to choose. So I was like, I don't really want this to end. But then I thought to myself, and always in my life when I've made decisions on instinct, it's always worked out. You know, like I've always like, the reason I signed for West Ham was because the people, right? So when I walked in, they were so welcoming to my mum, because sometimes my dad couldn't get there. So it'd be my mum and, hello, Susan, come in, have a cup of tea. They remembered her name, make sure they're looking after, chatting to her. There'd be like the first team, there'd be all of the coaches were bubbly and there wasn't nothing special going on. There wasn't no magic in the air. And for instance, I went to Arsenal, and Arsenal being from around there would have been the logical one. The biggest club, best kids teams. And I won't say his name, but because he's actually, he's a nice fella, but I walked in, the first time I went to play for Arsenal, I walked into the London Colney with my mum and dad, and this fella in a suit who worked there at the club walked past my mum and dad. That wasn't my dad, sorry, my mum, and didn't open the door, left the door open, shut the door.
As he walked
like that. Like, and he was obviously in his own mind, and we've all done it at some point. We tried but then I played. Then the geezer was man marking me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, So even as a 13-year-old kid, I thought that I couldn't get that out of my mind.
Right.
But I'm thinking, if I sign for Arsenal, it's a lot easier on my mum and dad because they ain't got to get me over to East London. But these people over at West Ham are good people, and I just fell in love with them. And I went with even as a kid, I had to sign, and yeah, it was a good decision. Yeah.
Let me ask. So, like I keep saying, we knew about you.
Yeah.
You was dubbed as a child prodigy.
Yeah.
Right. How did you deal with that?
Right.
Did you know the noise?
See, when people ask me that question, right, it's your own lived experience, so you just get on with it, right? And I've very much, like I said, that ignorance that helps me a lot in life. I'm that guy that will go, that even with the television work, like I see some of the players and they go, oh, it's a big game, it's a Champions League final or something, and they're like, I can see them like double notes or do something. I've always been like, the universe will do it for me. I'm all right. Do you know what I mean? And I'll give it a go, right? But because I've just finished writing my book, and it was about 6 months ago, so we talked about this, right? So there was people, like I knew that people were fussing over us, all the clubs and all that. Right. So I knew I must be a good footballer at but there was a story when I was 15, and it was a hit piece on the front of the Sunday People. Remember the Sunday People? Yeah. Like back for the young people, before social media, the newspapers were king.
It was everything.
The back page and the front page of the newspapers, that was the information. Yeah. There was nothing else. So if you was on that, it was big.
It was certified, yeah.
So they done a piece, and it was false, right? It was a back page of the Sunday papers. My face, I didn't know it was going to go on. 15-year-old on $5,000 a week earning more than the Prime Minister, and it was like basically saying like football's gone mad. I wasn't. It was complete. That's what I'm saying about media. It was complete nonsense. I was still on pocket money. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's at school.
Yeah, and I remember this story.
You remember the story?
I remember
the
story.
That's what I mean. So you remember it. Think about, people can't get their head around the fact that there's a story 30 years ago that you remember. I can't remember what I was listening to on the way here because of the social media and everything's moved on. But back then it changed my life, right? So that's on a Sunday morning. I've got to go to school. Every one of the teachers, every one of the kids would have read it. Then for a shy kid who just wanted to play football, it was like from that moment, the whole of the eyes looked at, when I went to school, eyes looked at a couple of teachers, made some snarky comments. And you'd think nowadays, like, there'll be some kind of duty of care to be like, they'll be like, is this kid all right? Do you know what I mean? This is a big thing to happen to him. Like, we just got on with it back then, didn't we? So I was like, but I recognised from that point, I become famous really in the footballing world from that moment on. So everyone had the conversation with me in a different way. And it's ramped up massively because of that nonsense story, which wasn't true. So actually, that changed my personality, which probably helped me now being able to work on the television and things like that.
Tell me how, though, because the crazy things, I remember that because I remember being like, oh, my man's earning money. I remember I'd be like, my man's earning money. Yeah. You know, and so when you say it changed you, and this is what I'm in regards, because you shy. And I think as you get older, you get a bit more cynical. You start clocking that, you know what, you be hired help, people take what they can take. You start as you get, but at 15, in regards to, like you said, you walk to a room or when people are sitting down to you, all of a sudden, not that they're bowling at your feet, but.
The thing is with fame, right? With footballers and fame, footballers you don't want fame. You want to become a footballer, and fame's something you had. So anyone else who becomes famous, usually an actor, an actress, there's a desire for. I think footballers don't really. Most footballers don't want it. Most footballers don't want it.
Especially back in that era.
Yeah. It wasn't like it was just something that was building momentum. So you had extra attention from. I would have attention from players, but players will try and hurt you a little bit more. Test you. You know, jealousy, envy comes into things like that. So, and then you get other people that want to get close to you, who want to be a bit more party. Mate, people are asking me to lend money. Like, I'm 15, I'm like, I've got 20 quid in my pocket, which my dad gave me for the cinema, but like proper money, you know what I mean? Like deposits for properties and things like that. And I'm like, so people change towards you. Yeah. And then there's a transactional relationship as apart from, right, I'm me, you're you, we're doing our thing. So you had to get wise to that from a younger age. But I think living where I lived, not being sheltered, I could work it out quite quickly. And I think I've done quite well in my life at not allowing people in who can hurt me. Do you know what I mean? I've probably had to let a few people go that I would have, it's not great, but I think it changed my life 100%. That newspaper article changed my life and my personality a little bit.
So we talk about West Ham's academy now, right? So West Ham academy, generational, they're man like Rio, Lamps. In that environment when you was in it, how did that shape you in regards to the football side of being like, all right, cool, I can ride this wave to where I want to go?
I think you see it all over the country. Players come through in bunches, don't they? It's happened at West Ham, it happened at Manchester United famously. Liverpool had a little spell with, Gerrard Carragher, Michael Owen. Like Chelsea in more recent years have started producing players. I think what it does is it like, like the track's beaten for you. Like Frank went through, then Rio went through, then me, and then Carrick, and then Defoe. And because the manager has faith that the kids are going to do it, because I put Frank in, he's good. Well, let me try another one. Put him in. So there's a little bit of that. Then there's a little bit of like, there's someone you can see just ahead of you in the race. You're in their slipstream. It ain't impossible. I know. I've trained with him. I've done it. I can do that. I can hold my, So that was really good. And people often ask me, like, when I was at Chelsea years later, and they were building a new stadium, they're building the training ground, and one of the guys who was helping design it was like, what did you do at West Ham? What did West Ham have that created all of them players? I was like, listen, the people is the main thing, but proximity is the only other thing. At West Ham, what you had from under 12s and under 13s, I remember walking into that training ground. It was because it was so small and ramshackle. You had to mix with the first team. So I'm like queuing up for my cup of tea, and then like West Ham, Julian Dix will walk in, the captain. Do you know what I mean? Or John Moncur or someone like that. And because of this culture was a friendly culture, they'd have a little chat with you. So I tried to take that on. When I got older, if I ever saw some young kids around the training ground, I'd always have a chat with them. How are you, chaps? Who scored all the goals? Who's got the skills? Do you know what I mean? And that meant so much to me.
How important is that? Like, because I always think there's tiers and there's levels, and I think building a culture is, for me, right at the forefront of anything in life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with that. I'm with you in regards to due diligence. We take back to just when was in school. How important is that pass on experience, or that welcoming from somebody that's been there to people coming through, just for people who are going to watch this, or young folks? And then also, how important is it for young folks to also just say hello? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's massive, mate. It's massive. And that's in any walk of life. There's a big mixed like move to go. It's part of it, right? So being kind, being friendly, being open is massively important for the culture. You can't be successful. I think someone said Brian Clough was so important and like enjoying it. You have to have enjoyment. You can't go to work and not enjoy. What successful anything, people not really enjoying it to a certain degree. But on the flip side, there still needs to be standards, and you still need to be able to call people out and tell people what it is. So I think West Ham had that brilliantly. It was fun. It was drove like, it was like, he couldn't do it now, but there was like, you go into the training ground and there'd be some geezer selling secondhand watches, fellow over there selling suits. The journalists would be there because there'd be no like media man. They'll just be coming, come in, have a cup of tea, wait for training. The lads' friends will be there. It was like it had that type of vibe to it, right? But then if you stepped out of line on the pitch, I can remember playing a youth team game, and Harry Redknapp was the first team manager. And he done this quite a lot. We're losing at half time, and it's like, wow, he was watching the game, so he come down and just started battering, like giving the players not good enough, because why would you waste time not giving people the straight message in the most direct way you can do, like in life? You can give people truth, and it can be it can be harsh truth, and it can still not be. It can still not be horrible. It's just that's the truth.
The truth. It's
not
the
good
truth.
enough. That's unacceptable at this club. So that all happened, and that was about 6 months before I played in the first team, and it was brilliant because that happened a lot in the first. You know, it's like the first team.
Yeah.
You imagine these kids now coming through the academy. Well, everyone's telling them, giving them the, don't worry. That's okay. It's okay. Nice. You could do that. And they go and play for someone in League 2, League 1, and they're getting battered. That could be just too much of a shock for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So now listen, you talked about West Ham. You still keep an eye at them?
I love West Ham.
What do you think? You think that current positions, you think they're going to stay up?
If you'd have asked me 2 months ago, I thought they were goners.
Yeah.
But I think they've had a great transfer window, bringing the boys in, and having the two boys back, the fullbacks from the African Nations Cup, the settled back four
needs to be, yeah.
And now they look a different team. I think they'll stay up.
Let me ask you something, right? So, for your debut, so you said 6 months before your debut, right? So you said you shifted after you went in. Found out the newspaper. Now you're a steady footballer and your happy place is playing football. Yeah. So, can you remember the night before your debut?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
So, I was cleaning the dressing room.
For people that don't know what used to happen back then.
Yeah. We had our jobs to do, right? So I had 3 players' boots I had to clean every day, and I had to clean. My job was the first team dressing room. So I had to finish doing our training, clean the boots, bang, make sure they're there, drying. Then I'd have to wait for the first team to leave, and then clean the room. So I was always it was the worst job. They could have the worst job because you're the last to leave. So bang, I'm mopping the floor, and Frank Lampard Senior comes in and just says, "Have you got a suit?" I was like, "What? You're in the squad tomorrow," and that was it. And left. I'm like, "Wow, do you know what I mean?" So go home, and then you're like, "Wow, this is happening." FA Cup 3rd round, and I was in Camden in this, you know what I mean? And then Mum and Dad are excited. You remember this is 5 years from me. I didn't even play football in a team, and now I was a boy.
So
and
you
now
made your debut at 17?
Just about a few days after my 17th birthday, like a few weeks. So I was like, yeah. God. So I got to the stadium so early. The guy hadn't even opened the gates at Upton Park. I was so excited, right?
Let me ask you this question though. Before you go, right? When you trained with the first team, right? After what training session in your heart that you're like, I can do this? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, cause take away the nerves. So especially back then, there was only a few youngsters that can train with the older boys, and that whole take the nerves out. I'm just talking about the football side of it. When was you like, do you know what? This is not even an age thing. As a football thing, I can really hold my own. Do you know what? Honestly, like it's gonna sound arrogant, but honestly, the first session, within the first session. Yeah, I just thought, talking about the ignorance, there was no thought in my mind that this weren't going to happen. I weren't going to be a footballer. There was no, genuinely, I swear on my kids, like I'm thinking, I'm thinking the only thing that could stop me was a plane accident or something like that. I'm like, there's like, and that's, and I think, so yeah, like this sounds arrogant. It's not even.
It's that's just, and because I know now when you look back, when you've done the journey, you look back, oh, that could have gone wrong there, that could have gone wrong there, that could have gone wrong there, but I'm here. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, so I just I just had like this. Have you seen the Dave Chappelle sketch, the new comedy thing where he talks about being a dreamer? It's a funny one.
Oh no, right, but I'm taking that in.
Okay, he talks about it. So he makes a joke about someone being a strong dreamer, and that's what I was like as a kid, right? I could dream things, like using my imagination.
Yeah.
I daydream a lot, and everything that happened in my life, West Ham, debut, Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? It all sort of tend to happen.
Yeah.
Does that make that bit mad? But it makes sense, right?
No, it's so true.
So yeah, I just said no. I just said I just didn't have any doubts.
So this is what I'm saying. So the first training session, you come off and was like, I'm going to play in this.
Yeah, but I wasn't worried. There was just a nerves. I wasn't really worried. Like,
you always been that then, so it didn't really matter who.
The nervous thing was walking into the dressing room and speaking to people.
Okay.
As soon as the ball was out, forget it. Could have been anywhere.
Yeah. All right, boom. Let's talk about your move to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Walk me through that. So that's, how long was you at?
I was at West Ham till I was 21. So I did 4 years in the first team, which is a long time, you know, like really. But I was regular I was regular. Went in straight and played more or less. Apart from, like, you know, the initial bit as a kid when you're sort of doing that. Yeah, the West Ham, we got relegated, right?
I was just about to mention.
We got relegated. So, you know, that was a story where, you know, that still hurts to this day because we ended up with 42 points. I think it's the most ever. I'm not sure. It might not be. And it's one of them things. It was just a whole culmination of the recruitment weren't right. Lots of injuries. We had a great first 11, and then lots of injuries and players coming in. It just, everything went wrong. Could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
I had a year left on my contract. I would have stayed at the club, but the club was needed to sell, basically.
So you would have gone down. You would have gone down to try and bring him back.
I would have done. I would have done if they wanted. I left it up to them. But so I had a year left on my contract. When I got to the season before we got relegated, we finished 7th, right? I'd gone to the World Cup as a young player, and I'd thought, right, we're going to kick on it. 7th in the 7th.
Yeah.
The next step is, you know, fourth, third, fourth, pushing, and then there was no investment. And my mindset, if the club at the time would have gone, right, we're gonna give players a new contract and we're gonna sign 3 or 4 good players. And I remember talking to Glenn. This is a mad one. And bless him, he's not with us anymore. But I remember him telling us years later, he was looking at a player called Didier Drogba in France, who's playing for Guingamp, and there's a few other players that he wanted to bring to West Ham, right? But there was no money. I think there's a couple of free transfers coming. So going into that season, I thought to myself, I've gone away with the World Cup. I looked around at my teammates at the World Cup, who I'm like, you're playing in the Champions League. You're playing for Arsenal, Chelsea's, Man United's. I'm like, so my mind got turned a bit there because the club didn't match the ambitions. And then, but I gave everything that season. I still think that's one of my best seasons in my career. It was like I was like this possessed. I was trying to do it myself. I was everywhere. I played centre mid, 4-4-2, and I was hell bent on keeping us up. Right, it didn't happen, and then I was deflated. And then the club was like, well, we're gonna have to sell you. I think they sold Glenn Johnson first, and then they sold me, and it got to the point where I was looking at, there's a few clubs that are interested, Manchester United, Arsenal, and Chelsea, the Roman money come in, right?
Right.
So Arsenal pulled out. No reason. It was me and Carrick. They would think I'm in and are in on. Then they pulled
Carrick
out.
Was still at West Ham.
Carrick was at West Ham with me.
Yeah.
And then Manchester United, it was, remember, I went the same summer Veron went to Chelsea, right? So from all accounts, I think what was going to happen was Manchester United were trying to sell Veron, and then there was maybe like going to be, you know, I was just left with my agent. I was like, cool. You tell me, you know, it's like otherwise you've already kettled.
Yeah.
And Veron was on a new signing for Chelsea. Then I thought, oh, well, Chelsea must be off the table. They're not going to sign the both of us.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I got a phone call. Get to Stamford Bridge. West Ham have accepted a bid, so I went to Stamford Bridge. The negotiations I think lasted about 4 or 5 hours. It was like, and I'm just sitting outside. I was sitting outside with my mum having a bit of lunch on the King's Road. It was nice. Place called the Bluebird. Yeah, big up. It's a nice place. It's still there. And so I was having a bit of lunch, and then they went, I've agreed the deal. Come in, bang, signed. And I was like, again, it was like an instinct. I was like, because as soon as I walked into Stamford Bridge to sign, I was like, I remember walking down there as a kid to watch the game. I remember where I sitted. I thought, yeah, this is the right place to be.
Okay.
But it was a mental time because they were signing Veron, Mutu, Crespo, Jeremy from Real Madrid. Makaleli was coming. Like, mate, we signed. People don't really understand it because there's none of this financial fair play that was going on there. It was like this geezer come in and went, I'm buying everything. And everyone was going, what's going on here? We can't compete.
So for you, right? And does this go back to your, I don't know, blasé or ignorance, or was it just utter self-confidence? Because of course, certified baller, but come from a team that just got relegated, and then you've got the names, mate. So at that point, wasn't it?
Veron was Argentina's number 10.
Do
you know what I mean?
That's them.
That's
je ne sais quoi names. You know what I'm saying? Not saying anything like Joe Cole 8, but you get me. But so at that point, wasn't there like, you know what?
I'll tell you a story. I don't even know if this is out right. My dad told me this years later, because his mental time. They were signing. They've obviously gone, Veron, he can play there. I said he can play there. We get the best young players in England. We've got to get them. So they got them to sign up Glenn Johnson, Damien Duff, myself. No thought of where we're going, right? And I'm just gone, all right. And they said to my dad, does he want to go on loan to Spartak Moscow?
Oh, shit.
And my dad went, he ain't going on loan.
He's okay.
My man was like, he'll be in your first team. Don't worry about that. Do you know what I mean? This guy, no knowledge of football, but he's backing his boys. He's backing his boys. And then he spoke to my agent, Dave, said, should we tell him that? Because he's already signed it now.
Yeah.
And they went, don't tell him. And I was like, right. And then by the end of that first season, I think I played 50. I made 50 appearances that year, 25 starts, 25 from the bench. By the end of it, I was like, I'm a Chelsea player now. Do you know what I mean? Right, and that was under Ranieri. But madness.
So what was it like now? So from your first walking in the West Ham changing room to now walking in to the Chelsea changing room, by this time, mentally, had you been like, it's different? Or does it always, every change room takes you back to, I hate this bit.
Every change room takes me back to first day at school, but even when I played with my mates, we played after my career, we played in a pub team. Like we got the band back together, right?
Yeah.
And even then, it's the same thing. It's like moving in, like meeting new people. I should be all right, and I'm same age as you, 44. So, but the only difference is, it's Emmanuel Petit, it's Veron, it's Desailly. And football's a great leveler because everyone sort of knows you, doesn't it? It's not like you're new. Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm from so. They know I was at West Ham. They know I've played against them.
Yeah.
I had a little few run-ins with a couple of players. Nothing serious, just normal nonsense. But so you get all of that out of the way. But there were just so many players, geez, and even I'm doing the numbers game. Mate,
did that make it easier or harder? Because sometimes when you go into something stable, you're like, that's already set in stone. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this one, you're like, to be fair, these are just names.
Up for grabs.
Yeah.
Up for grabs.
Yeah.
That's what my thing was, up for grabs. And I went in every day with a mindset. I remember thinking, I want to be better in training than Veron. I saw Veron as like my direct competition. And by the way, what a geezer.
Yeah.
What a lovely man. Like, I think sometimes the higher up in football you go, the real geniuses they're just there's a humility to him.
Yeah.
We done our press conference together, and we done it for some reason. We done it 2 weeks after we signed because there were so many players. Like, do you know what I mean? So we're doing a press conference together, and it's like me on the stage, Veron, Ranieri, and all the questions are coming from Veron. I'm just standing there like that. I was like, and he must have felt like, I wasn't bothered, but he must have felt, he went, so they asked him, who you player you most like to look forward to playing with? He was like, Joe Cole, I think it's the best young player in the country, one of the best in the world. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy rates me. I'm like, and the journalist will write it down, and he's leaning to when he said, that'd be 50 quid in my pocket.
Sick.
I was like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I like you. I show him that.
Yeah,
I like you.
I can roll with you.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about the number. So, because I don't know if it's as powerful nowadays, but growing up, like you said, those 9 and 10. As soon as you see anybody, so when I look at my kids, if I see number 10, I was like, he's probably the best player. You know, what was that like that you got to Chelsea? It was like, boom, man, I'm rocking 10.
I agree. We would have watched Italian football growing up.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
Yes,
like
Baggio,
them type of ballers growing up. And I was like, right, I need to wear the number 10. And they offered this. I've said this story many, many times. Claudio said I could wear the number 10.
Okay.
But then he said it to Veron as well. So they were going to give it to Veron. And then there was a bit of confusion. And my dad was kicking off, like, going, we're not going to sign. And I'm like, Dad, man, we're signing. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, but he was like, no, you know. And it taught me a valuable lesson in life that if somebody gives you their word, that's the most important thing. I'm very careful nowadays. If if I tell someone I'm going to do something, like I told you, I'm going to do it. Do you know what I mean? And if I'm not, I'm not. So anyway, he's kicking off. Ranieri's calling Veron. Veron's, it's all gone round the houses. And eventually, Claudio went, I did offer it to Joe first. And Seb was fine with it. I think he wore 20. Yeah. So, but I wore it. And that was a big thing for me to wear the number 10 shirt. I always loved it.
Let me ask this question so I'll make sure. You won 3 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups.
Yeah.
So among those honours, right? Yeah. What stands out for you as like, okay?
With a glaring one, the only one I didn't win to the Champions League. Like, so they're all great. They're all great. I love them all.
But hold on. Why you want to talk about the ones you didn't win? Like, this is flowers.
Yeah,
brother,
okay.
Brother, 3 Premier Leagues. Like,
I've got my 64, mate.
Yeah, brother, let me say this, brother, from where we came from.
Yeah.
The pinnacle, 3 Premier Leagues. And I'm talking about this man, my favourite player ever, Stevie G, didn't win 1.
Yeah.
So you won 3.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 2 FA Cups, 2 League Cups. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Like, even when I looked at it, I was like, but that's certified. So, out of that, what for you when you just sit back at it, and I know, of course, I get it, you wanted to be able to say, I rocked everything, but what one out of them ones is just a special moment? Because we got pictures here, B.
They're all special. I think that's the second one. Do you know what, right? It changes day by day, but I think the one that made me the most emotional was the first Premier League, right? And that was a weird one because we won it at Bolton on the Saturday, so done, we've won it, but they didn't have the trophy, but we didn't really celebrate because we had the Champions League semi-final, which we lost to Liverpool on the Tuesday night.
Sorry.
So we knew we'd won it. We're preparing for the Charlton game at home. We'd already gone out and celebrated more or less, but they're giving us the trophy at home. So it's a procession, it's a celebration. And we beat Charlton 1-0 that day. Do you remember Makelele's penalty where he missed it, scuffed it into the floor? Right. But then the moment like the whistle went, I got really emotional. Like, and I was like, I had to sort of compose myself.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cry on the pitch, and it was because it was at Stamford Bridge. And again, talk about that as a kid. And I still think that Stamford Bridge, much as it changed, it still had the same smell to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
same essence.
So I got really emotional. So that one probably means the most to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is mental because we won it the week before, but it's just a moment, right? It was like, and then the stadium, because it was 50 years, right, from the club since they won it. So it's a long time.
Let me ask, right? So you mentioned names, Veron, Makelele. You spent a lot of time there. Wicked memories. So with all the new players and that, was there kind of anybody that you clashed with in there? To be fair, you don't really seem like that, but was there anybody that you just energy didn't take to?
Any energy didn't take to? Like, genuinely, like, there's players you really get on with, and then there's players.
So who was that? Who was the players you? Who was your?
So Wayne Bridge, Carlton Cole. Like, they're my mates now. We still do things now. Do you know what I mean?
Certified.
But it was weird because Carlton, so it was only there for 6 months, and then I played with him again at West Ham later. But we're close now.
Yeah.
Bridgie's my guy. I got on well with everyone because there was no one really who come in who I thought was a bit of a there's no one, man. No one. I couldn't. There's a couple that you didn't really.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah,
You don't need to.
No one.
Yeah, man.
No
it's
one
one
really.
Of them ones. If there's nobody that came to your head that you're like, was a.
There's no one where if I walked into a room now, I'll be like,
I can't. Yeah, man. That's fine. All right, so let's talk about. You was part of that whole squad, 2008, got to Champions League final. Talk to me about that whole run to Moscow.
Oh, man. Well, we actually, right, it was a mad time because remember, Mourinho got sacked after 4 games into the season, right? And Avram took the job. Now, Avram is a very, very good, like, nice man, right? Good man. Good. His record's very, very good as a manager. And he's actually, still to this day, the most successful points per game Chelsea manager of all time. And what he was very smart at, Avram, what he recognised was the team had, like, we wasn't a team of 5 years before. We was all young. We'd won loads of trophies and we'd seasoned and we'd matured. And he sort of like, the whole club's mental at that point because Mourinho's left, right? And he was so great at everything he'd done. So he allowed the boys to sort of work it out ourselves. Steve Clark was great as well. Come in and we went back to the method that we kept the same training schedule. Like Mourinho was this is what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? So nothing changed in that sense. We all knew what we were doing because we played together and been successful together. All Avram did was keep it nice and light and pick the team. And it was genius. And we nearly won 4 trophies. Like, it was the width of a post for Champions League in Moscow. Was like, I think it was a point off the Manchester United.
That was the penalty.
John Terry.
Oh, snap. Yeah, them ones.
Yeah, so we played Man United. We'd beat Man United in the FA Cup final the year before. And I thought that they were a better team on that day, but we got it.
Yeah.
Right?
Happens sometimes.
Happens.
Yeah.
But on that night in Moscow, I thought over the course of 120 minutes, I thought we were the better side.
Yeah.
I know when you think like things are written in stone for you, Drogba being sent off because he would have taken the penalty. Yeah. I got taken, I'm sure, I have to check it. I got taken off for Anelka because Anelka was a penalty taker, right? So Anelka didn't start. He missed them. Everyone remembers JT because that was to win it. Anelka missed the penalty. Van der Sar saved it.
Yeah.
But I would have took that penalty. That would have been my number. So I often think like something that, and I can be quite.
Would you have took it?
Oh yeah, how can I not?
Say no.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm just asking.
I wouldn't have wanted to. I wasn't a penalty taker, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to because I don't know. It's just I'd never take it. Up to that point in my career, I hadn't actually taken a penalty.
No.
27. Yeah, because at West Ham it was Di Canio.
Yeah.
Chelsea's Lampard, and whenever we got to shootouts, we had so much quality. We had strikers, Anelka, Drogba, Crespo, Mutu, like actual penalty takers. So you just got to that point in my career, I'd never taken one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have done. Yeah. To this day, it was only about a few years ago when I did something talking about that cup final. I didn't realise it was pissing down with rain for the whole night. Do you know what I mean? So it shows you how you focus on it. I went, wait, it was raining. Torrential rain the whole night.
Yeah.
So he slipped and missed it. And I just think that's things like that written in the stars, for us. We weren't meant to win it that night.
Talk to me about that. I mean, my closest was playoff final. And I remember I remember the day afterwards, I flew to Miami by myself.
Right.
I met my brothers there. But I just remember, honestly, at that point, wanting just the world to, you know, what, just that first, after that Champions League, so close. Like, you know, penalty shootouts is penalty shootouts. But, you know, you talk about it now, just says, listen, man, we wasn't meant to win it. So, is that come with time? Or have you always kind of...
I've always been quite good at that, I think. I think the price we pay as footballers at any level, because by the way, to make it as a footballer at any level, professional football is a massive achievement, right? Because you know how hard the journey is. Yes. You know basically it's the world's game, right? So it's not like you're making it at croquet, or cricket, which is done by these nations and not these nations. It's done by everyone. It's access to everyone, right? And there's a finite amount of people that can do it at the stage. So So I've got big respect for anybody who's played the game, right? And one thing that you have to have, you can be big and strong like you could be small and nimble, you can be smart, you can have so many different attributes. But one thing you have to have is this innate competitiveness, right?
Yeah.
So you have this competitiveness that we all have, right? Some more than others, but you all have to have a level of it. And with that comes this thing where I think there's something driven inside you that's never satisfied, right? So on one hand, I've got this, I'll sit there and I go, man, I've come from Kentish Town. I've done all this in the game. I've supported my family. I've now gone to another career. I'm like respected and all that. I'm proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the other point, head it's a pillar of a night. You go, man, if he wouldn't have slipped there, do you know what
I mean? 100%.
Right? And if I would have scored that one in that World Cup, maybe I'd have had a World Cup. You know what I mean? And I think that's the trade-off you've got, right? And then you've got to sometimes sit in the middle and go, right, you sit there and go, right, I'm happy that I've given everything that I can give for it. And you've got to lean towards, you've got to be there and then lean towards being proud for what you've done, because I do think as well there's a bigger plan, and it weren't meant to be. But I'm actually quite good at that. I see. I put the analogy for me is, right, we've all got that. All footballers have. I know you have as well. Sometimes you think, man, that playoff final, if I'd just run in there.
100%. 100%. It's moments. You know what I mean?
And that's the price we pay to do what we've done and live the life that we've lived.
100%. Let me ask. So, listen, you may have talked about it in hella times, but on a curious note, and you'll see me just ask these questions. So, you talked about Mourinho getting sacked 4 days after Avon Grant. But talk to me, with all the players coming in, what made him so special as a manager? Or not even special, how did he maneuver all those names, all those personalities, and mould into successful? You understand what I'm saying? I know you lot were ballers, but just what was it?
Yeah, so like it's interesting, and I think the world's changed again now, like in terms of how you maneuver and all that. But I think innately he come in, and he was very much like, you're all players, but I'm the man. Like, and there'll be little subtle things which he'll do purposely, I think, to let you know, right? So he made himself the front and center of the show, took all the limelight, took all the, made himself. He was loved by Chelsea fans. Everyone else hated him, didn't they? Do you know what I mean? Then the media couldn't get enough of him because he's feeding them, and they're like, more of this. And it was all like, he was always the star of the show. And you always felt like when he wanted to praise you, so he did give players praise and big them up, but it was always just enough to there. And I just think he had a great way of understanding. He had a way of putting himself as the alpha. In every room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? Outside looking in, and what for me, resonated with me is that he looked like he created this culture that it was very much, I love that everybody hates us.
Yeah.
And it's similar, I'd say, that I thought we had that at Wickham. Not as in they hated the style we played, direct. It was for them. So I love that, where it's like they can't stand us. So let's go and rub it in. That's what it looked like. And he got everybody to buy in. And I think that's, like you said, I think it's changed now. But outside, that's just what it looked like.
It's changed now because you're absolutely spot on, right? It's a siege mentality. So we had that. I didn't even realise we was doing it at the time, but all of a sudden we were hated, and we leaned into that because we're the new kids on the block. So when we go and play in Europe, they're like, no, this ain't Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. Like, who are you? You like just strolling in with a new oligarch owner, just buying up everyone. Do you know what I mean? Especially with it being from a London club as well, which I think grates a little bit the Continentals. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but so we were like, we understood that, and you can't do that now, right? Because football clubs are businesses first, right? And businesses have to toe lines. So you can't. So the chances of there being a Mourinho type character, the closest I think you can get to it is Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of, he's great. He knows exactly what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
He's great in people, but he's doing it in a, he can't go full blown. Like, remember Mourinho in like the El Clasico slapping the Barcelona, the assistant manager.
Yeah.
Like that, them days, that can't go on
changed,
because it's, you know, what's to say it's better or worse, I don't know. But he did do that siege mentality, yeah.
Let me say that 2007, 2008, he was Chelsea's player of the season.
Yeah.
But that, with the, listen, and I always say, don't ever, when I say with the names, know what I mean with the names. Do you know what I'm saying? But talk me through that, knowing that, season and what Chelsea achieved or got through, and you was the player of the season. Talk me through those memories.
Yeah, that's probably sort of peak of my powers. Do you know what I mean? That was where I was at my best. Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, see them things, they're nice. I do, like, they are nice. And I was always at my best as a player when I connected in with my team and I went on the pitch thinking, right, because I think that's a bit of a misconception of me. Like, it was like a bit of a show pony. I wanted to win. So by that time in my career, I'm like, I just was so engrossed in trying to win everything with my mates. And that was when I always played my best football. When I let my ego get involved and try to be like that, things would just sort of tend to not work as much. So I sort of, them things are really nice, but the memories of winning the trophies together and coming in after winning the leagues or cup finals were the ones that I love and miss to this day.
So you said something there, because as soon as you said that, because in my mind, my thing was strength.
Yeah.
So if there was any inkling of people talking about somebody who was stronger, but like you said, my ego would be like, all right, man, I got to show this. So yours was your flair, your skill. In the game at that time of your peak of the powers, who were you like, then man think he's a baller, like, or he got skills. Who were the people, were there any where you'd be like, all right, but I see that.
I love Ronaldinho. Okay. I love Ronaldinho. Of course I did. Like, and I think he's like a year older than me or something. So like, he's with a similar age, and he was like, on the pitch, he's right. Forget his skills because you all see them. Do you know how strong he was?
The worst thing is I've just seen the way he's pinning, keep a man a couple.
That's what he had, which I was quite strong. I could handle myself, but he was so strong, mate.
He was so strong.
Like, you know, well, you probably don't know, but when you're me, right, you're touching players. I'm like, is he real? Right? Do you know what I mean? I really brace myself here, right? Right. There was none of that with him. It was like he just put people. I see him pin Paulo Ferreira at one point, and Paulo was like a rucksack on him, and it was like, and I was like, mate, and this kid can play.
Yeah.
He was the player that I absolutely loved. I loved him, man. There's no one like him. He changed the game.
Yeah.
Like, I like to think that I did things like you said, from the cage onto the pitch, but he brought it global. Where he's playing for Barcelona, and I just mate, I'd finished playing on a Saturday, and it was, do I go out with the lads? But Barcelona are playing Alaves at home in Spanish football. Do you know what I mean, mate? Probably helped me. Kept me in on Saturday nights watching that geezer play. I loved him.
But I keep coming back to, when I say you're a football purist, that's a football purist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, so your time at Chelsea's coming to an end. You're going to Liverpool, my club.
Yeah.
Big news. Talk me through that.
Chelsea decided they wanted to move in a different direction, right? I've been over that. It wasn't the manager, it was from above. You know, like, it's the first time I've seen that sort of. Ancelotti was manager. We won the double, right? I'd come back from my knee injury. I'd made an impact, and I think I played 40 games. Maybe that's around about that time. Might be. By the end of the season, I scored the vital goal against Manchester United in April, which was crucial in winning the title. So when we won the league, and then we won the FA Cup, so we won the double. But I felt like I was moving. So we'd won the double, right? But we were getting old. Ballack, Deco was there. Belletti, remember him? There's a few players playing, and then there's a crop of young players that come in through the club. which I didn't think were good enough to play for Chelsea. I don't want to name their names because they've eventually none of them played for Chelsea.
Say nothing, yeah.
But there's a big move to push these youngsters in and freshen up the squad. But what they did was they got rid of all of us, Deco, Ballack, myself, who'd played a part in that, and the club wanted to go in that direction.
Okay.
And I think Ancelotti was like, I don't want to lose all 6 of these players. Maybe we could keep 3 of them.
Yeah.
But they pushed us. I've pushed us out the door. They went in that direction, and that's what they wanted to do.
Prerogative. So
and as you like, so anyway, I needed to find a new club. I was on a free, and but the knee thing, I was never the same player after the knee injury, right? That was. Did you know? Not at that time.
Okay.
Not at that time.
Okay.
Not. I was like, I'll find it somehow. Do you know what I
mean? Yeah.
And then there's clubs, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, all sniffing round. And it got down to Spurs or Liverpool. And I didn't want to go to Spurs, right? For obvious reasons, like Chelsea, West Ham, Spurs. It never sat right with me.
Right, okay.
So it ended up, if I wanted to stay in England, Liverpool's a great option. Liverpool finished 7th. But when I spoke to Roy, I said about instinct, I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on the style of football. I'm not sure. But then we went to the World Cup in 2010 and got back. I was like, But I'm trying to convince myself. I'm like, Stevie's there and da-da-da, and great club.
Great, yeah.
And I'm like, I've always got on with Scousers. I like the vibe. And then I'm like, I'm trying to talk myself into it, but then I didn't listen to this. I don't have this style of football. It's going to suit me. Da-da-da. Anyway, I should have, looking back now, probably should have gone, right, let me take a step back. Maybe let's look abroad.
Right.
And then I think a slower league might help my knee, but then I had my little girl and I was like, I don't want to leave England. Do you know what I mean? And so great club. Really great club, mate, honestly. But there was something nagging me. This ain't gonna work. Then I went there and then I started getting these niggly injuries that really stopped me. And then it was like for 4 years then after that, I was like, the only time I played consistently well after that was when I went to France and played in Ligue 1 on loan to Lille.
Yes.
And that was simply because the manager was he was brilliant and he had allowed me to, I couldn't train as hard as I used to. Do you know what I mean? I had to manage my body, but there was no one really guiding us. Do you know what I mean? Through that. So it just didn't fit with Roy Hodgson, Liverpool. I think maybe in a different lifetime, it could have, but what I would say is the club handled themselves, really well, because as soon as I went into the club, about 3 months later, the new owners come in and bought it, and then we got word from my agent that they wanted to let me go. So imagine that you sign for a club, a few little injuries, but let's get going. I've got a 4-year contract. Then the news is you can leave in January. Do you know what I mean? So that is hard. And then you're chasing, as a footballer, Roy's struggling, the team's struggling. And then he's like trying to find solutions. And I got lumped in with all of that, with Roy and his signings. And so Liverpool message to my agent was, we want to get rid of him. And then you're sort of chasing your tail. It gets to January. Kenny comes in, but I'm not in the team, and I'm like, I need to play. You know what I mean?
What's that?
That's the first time in my career at 29 that I've had that experience where I'm like, I've not been in the teams because of tactical reasons or just, manager goes with another player, but I've never been like, we don't want you. It was always like, listen, you're not playing because Robin's playing, but I was always back in the team 2-3 weeks afterwards. You know what I mean? I've always find myself back in the team somehow. But this is the first time from a club when, no, you can leave. And I'm like, what? Well, 3.5-year deal on a big contract. But what I would say, there was none of this. They treated me with respect, in the sense there was never palmed off to the bomb squad like you hear going on now, which I actually really sort of respect. I got to big them up for that, because, and I played my part. I was always at it. Do you know what I mean? And always training hard. And when I did get a chance, I'd give it everything. It was 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But I often think if I could rewind the tape and look and sign for Liverpool again, probably wouldn't have worked. But if I did sign for him, if I would have got a run in games in the team and managed, 100% I could have still played for that Liverpool team that was there. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say names because I don't want to be disrespectful, 100%, but I should have played more.
I get what you're saying, and it's only, I always say this, and don't get twisted, some people will take, doesn't matter what you say, they'll take it the way they take it, but I totally understand what you're saying. What I want to know is, mentally, you got to look at it. JC from 12 has been chased after, and everything's come as you dreamed it. So you visioned it, and it materialized. Now 29. And one thing I would say, right, and I always, especially when I talk to people generally, and I don't ever downplay it, but everybody generally I talk to have played higher. So I know what it was in my world. But so you're going through your struggles in front of the world off a name. So you've built up. I just want to know mentally. So again, it coincides with you having your little girl. Mentally, talk me through that period.
Yeah, that's a great question, mate. Because that's the first time in my life it ain't worked. Do you know what I mean? We've had little spells where you're in like little month here, 3 weeks here at the team, but this is the first time I'm like, what do I do? Yeah, I've had, like, so you have your little girl and that that side of life is amazing, right? Beautiful. When you first have you know, the world changes to you. But I'm up away from London. Like Mrs. was like, do you know what? Fair play to her, right? She never told me how unhappy she was because she wanted to just support me. Do you know what I mean? Like we're up here, we're doing it. She's you know, so you know, that's why I love her. But she was like, he's not even playing. I don't like it. I want to be with my, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and then all of a sudden, the horrible thing for me was the not being able to play football, because that was always my solace. Yeah. Like, and by saying that, I mean not being able to play in the first team, but then also breaking down with little injuries every fourth. I'll be getting up to speed, thinking I'm feeling a bit better now. Play well, play again. Hamstring gone, 6 weeks. Then all of a sudden the seasons go, don't they? You've seen it with players, you know, man. And you're trying everything. And I'm like, I'm chasing my tail around the world. I'm listening to every bit of advice. I'm trying to do everything right. I'm in the gym. I'm doing everything right. And there's no solution. And actually, when I wrote in my book, I said, I'm actually just as proud of that little spell, because that lasted until I went to America. When I was 34 to a certain degree. I went back to West Ham and little spell at Villa and da-da-da. But I was playing football with the handbrake on because my body was just, was like, you know. So I'm actually just as proud, maybe more proud of that period where, like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing down the tools. I'm not being one of these people that pretend football don't mean nothing to them. Start boozing. Do you know what I mean? You know, start living off your past. I trained hard every day. I give it everything. And you know, still moments. I said I had a good year in France, which is blessed. And I still go back to Lille now, and the fans, like, they give me a wicked welcome. Do you know what I mean? So I got that little part of France where I left a little something on, right? Something there. So, how did the French, so Lille and the Premier, how did that differ? Mate, so here's the thing, right? We are so bad at this country. We talk about, remember, they call it a farmers league, right? Yeah. Mate, it's so disrespectful. Okay. It's so disrespectful. Okay. By the way, it's not the Premier League, right? Yeah. It's not the Premier League, but I think it's a hybrid of the Championship, right? Which is a real tough league littered with, like, amazing young talents. Right? Okay. But the physicality, mate, I don't care. Go and look at Messi's stats when he went to PSG in the league and tell me that, and look at what he's doing after that in Miami and winning World Cups, and tell me that the French league was tough, mate. But all right, say not. The only reason I could operate, the manager said to me, like, we had this thing on Thursday, right, which was he used to call it a la carte. Right, so what do you want to do? Like, I would come to training, it'd be like, some of the lads would do the gym, some of the lads would do head tennis. Every now and then they'd go out and do like a little passing drill, but it'd be really light. Right, see, I was going into games fresher. Right. Looking back now, with my knee, I could never be the same player I was but I could have been available and fitter if I'd have just managed. I could only
an
really
adaptable version.
Yeah,
of
an
yourself
adaptable
in
version,
regards
and
to,
the way that we played tactically.
Yeah.
I could play centre mid. I could rotate, get on the ball, go deep. It was good, man.
But I just see, when you was in Lille, did you play up against Hazard?
Played with him.
You played with Hazard?
Yeah.
Did you know he was a baller from then?
Mate, yeah, because
you did.
Yeah, well, I'd seen him play in the Europa League, and he knew he was one of the best young players in the world. So when we went to sign, the manager Rudy Garcia was showing me where he wants to play me, and he's like, we can play some games. I'm going to play you off the left. Then some games I can play you on the right. You'll work well with Debussy. Remember him at Arsenal? He was there. Yeah. So some games I'm going to play you in like a midfield three, like a double pivot. But at no point did he put me in the number 10. Okay. I'm like, he said, no, that's Eden. And then it was like, the first game we played St Etienne away. And I was like, now I see it, mate.
Okay.
He had this swagger about him. He run the league. He was 19, best player in the league. I think he won in his last year in France. He won the.
Do you remind you of a young Joe Cole then? That swagger, that.
He's the best player that I've played with. He's the best player I've played with. Yeah. All the boys at Chelsea.
Yeah.
In terms of the quality. Right. In terms of, look, you could make a case for Drogba. You could make a case for Lampard. You can make a case for Gerrard, right? But in terms of the quality, in terms of having to do everything, he's just like, and also a joy to watch. Like, he was like.
That's saying something, because you played with some top dogs.
Yeah. Well, I look at him like Scholesy, technically unbelievable. Eden can do everything technically he could do, but Eden could dribble.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Free kick, he could whip a free kick in, both feet. Mate, he was messy, but without. Actually, I said to you about footballers being hyper competitive.
Yeah.
I think he's the only footballer that I've never seen. He's just a genius. Like, he couldn't not have made it. He must have had a competitive edge, but I never really saw it, because he'd win games by himself.
Right.
I'd never seen him angry. I've never seen him. But he was just a genius. Like, amazing footballer.
That's sick. All right, boom. So let's go. After all that, you go back to West Ham.
Yes.
So after 10 years.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. What was the homecoming like?
The homecoming. Do you know what? That's one of my favourite days in my career as well. Yeah. We played Man United in the FA Cup, and it was nearly perfect because I set 2 goals up for Ginge, and we were 2-1 up, FA Cup third round, but then Van Persie scored 2-2 anyway. But the whole day, mate, was just beautiful. I had my whole family there. And do you know what? I've done the same thing as well.
What?
I got there double early again. My second debut.
You know, this is what I was going to ask you.
I was so excited.
Listen, I think your default settings is you're quiet and until you kind of get comfortable, and then, you know what I'm saying, you're JC, you know what I'm saying? So going back there with everything you had gone through in life, you're a father now, you've won honours. Yeah. When you went back to West Ham, was it the same as in, or now you're like, listen, I'm an experience, so there's nothing new that can come my way, so I'm going to take football for actually, doesn't matter what politics comes of it, I'm just going to take football? Or is it just literally your default settings is when you go to a changing room, you're still quiet until you're comfortable? The time you went back.
It was a great dressing room, by the way. It was a great dressing room, because I've been up to Liverpool, and as much as I want, it wasn't a good dressing room in my opinion. And you know what I mean by that? It was like, you know, great players, great characters, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, it was segregated.
Or maybe that was me, sort of like, because I wasn't feeling happy. I don't know.
Yeah.
You get it, right? Yeah. So, but going there, it was going back to West Ham. After the Lille thing, I had the great experience in Lille, and then I've gone back to West Ham. And then I'm like, the boys were great. And I straight away walked in, Mark Noble's there, Colton's there, Kevin Nolan. So, and now I'm 31, 32, I don't know. And then I'm on that side of the game. So I'm just happy to be there. But the best thing about going back, it was 10 years. It was like 10 years of like round their houses doing all mad stuff. Was just the fans were still like, because I played for Chelsea for 7 years, right? So they could well have been like, but they always held a special thing for me, and I always do for them because of that. Do you know what I mean? So the game back against Manchester United, I wasn't sure what sort of reception I'd get, and it was good, and it was beautiful. Yeah,
we got to talk about your England career.
Yeah.
So you was part of the so-called golden generation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? What's your viewpoints about your England time?
The viewpoints is I put the England thing very much in the Champions League thing with us, right? Because it, like the World Cup in 2002, Ronaldinho.
Yeah. I talked to Seaman was on there. We talked about it.
Yeah. Right. So that's a quarter-final, right? 2004 penalties, Portugal. 2006 Rooney sending off. 2008 was just a debacle. Then 2010 Lampard, the ball's gone over the line. So see these 4 or 5 moments, the penalty shootouts, and then I just think there was something up there that wasn't right for us. But on our perspective, what we could have done differently. Everyone talks about the difference. The players there was a lot of egos. There's no doubt about that. Manchester United, Chelsea were like. But I think, what did Spain do? Spain would have had Real Madrid and Barcelona. Then they went and won everything. They managed to come together. So we could have done more on that front. Because remember, we're playing cup finals against each other, breaking each other's hearts, and then you're trying to put an England shirt on together. It was never a problem for me. I'm proud. I was proud to play. I loved it. But I think some players, I think they've actually said it. They saw themselves as club players before England players.
Yeah,
I've always seen myself as an England player playing for my clubs, and I love the clubs I played for. But because I fell in love with watching Gaza in 1990 at the World Cup, so that's what I want to do. Moment.
Just because I was going to mention this, for our era, I think you're the closest to an English version of Paul Gascoigne than anybody else. And listen, I think Foden, we wax lyrical about him, baller. And of course, I do think in today's day and age, if you was born in today's day and age, to be fair, maybe they would stifle you the way they play, because I think football's changed. But you the closest to Gascoigne in regards to cage football on the biggest stage. Yeah. Just want to put that out there again, like certified. I want to ask, right, because you're an individual who seems like you do take most things in your stride, right? But what was the pressure like when you put on an England shirt at that time? What was that like? What was the difference? Like, you've played Champions League finals, you've been at Chelsea, been at Liverpool, little time at Villa, you've gone to Lille. England, for these tournaments, what's the pressure like? And did you feel it, even as laid back as you?
No, do you know, I'm probably, I've seen players, right? Again, I wouldn't say names.
Don't name names, so we know stories.
Players, well, I remember a player coming off for England, and he was like, what rating am I going to get in the paper the next day? Like when we was doing them friendlies, and they're friendly. I was like, but I couldn't comprehend why that would even
be a thing
compute for you, right? So, but that's an England player, right? That's an England player. So I'm the worst person to ask, because it never really affected me. Do you know what I mean?
Phase you,
Like, and that's not me. That's just the style I'm built. Like, I'm like, right. I get nervous. I'm not going to lie. Like, I get nervous, but as soon as the game's on, I'm like, I feel like it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to play well or I'm not. I've done everything I can. But there was an issue around that time with, and we can't, I don't blame the media, but it was quite brutal with players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You remember the Beckham thing when he got sent off and they're hanging?
Yeah, man.
See, you got to think about that in context, right? What that is, right? Somebody some idiot somewhere has hung something of Beckham, right? Because he got sent off, right? All right. Is that news? Like, do they have to put that in the paper?
Of course.
Because then it self-perpetuates itself. And then it's like, then all of a sudden he's turning up. That was tournament before my time. Then he's turning up at grounds and it's been full of the paper. Beckham, hate Beckham, hate Beckham, hate Beckham. He talks about it in his documentary, didn't he?
Yeah.
So luckily I never got that kind of treatment. I don't know how I would have reacted, but that was across the board, and the media, because it sells, look at the rage baiting stuff now online.
100%.
So
the paper was rage baiting before internet was rage baiting.
Yeah, they were just like professionals at it. Do you know what I mean? And so that was what it was, right? So looking back now, of course, some of the lads who wasn't quite so he's wired like me, would like where it just didn't, it wasn't a thing. Of course, that would affect. And I think Gareth Southgate done brilliantly. He recognised that because I played with Gareth, and he started building that relationship, Then all of a sudden, the better relationships, less things, players' confidence grow, and it all molds together. Not just that, but Gareth wouldn't have been able to recognise that unless he would have lived through that and played through that, which he did, and he dealt with it. And now, there's other issues, but the players go away with England, and they know that the press, the people that their support for them, which is good.
Yeah. Everyone we've had on here, I've sat down with and we've talked about England. I've always mentioned the training, the difference from, and I want to know your viewpoint because of who you played, what you played with in regards to when you first went to training at England. First, what was the feeling like when you got called up to England, and you know what I'm saying? What was that like? Where you was like, it's raw, man, because you're a proud Englishman.
I went to train as a 17-year-old. Right, so this is a little bit like, well, I'll tell you why I'm not wired, right? Okay, right. Bishop, so I'm there. Shearer, Ince, Adams, like I sort of just got in at the back end of that generation.
Yeah.
So I'm I went out, trained with them, fine. All the United boys were there, looked after me actually. Phil Neville and Scholesy were the first people I saw as I walked in, and they was, you all right? I'm like, yeah, good, yeah, sweet, yeah. And then like, do you play golf? I've never played golf before in my life. I was like, of course I do, right? So they've gone, all right, we'll put you down for like, we're playing golf. So they all got on a coach after training and played golf. I'm like, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Hit the ball straight, right? Like you'd think a young kid getting into the England team, like Shearer, Sheringham, right? I'm playing with Shearer, Sheringham. I'm first up. I've just air shot this thing about 3 times. And then they're going, have you ever played before? I went, no, but I thought it'd be easy. So we just ended up playing, and still like Shearer, like years later, she was going like, I could not believe it. Like the front, I was just like, I ended up after about 3 or 4 rounds, it's like, let me just carry your clubs, boys. Like, but I was just happy to be there, and I was just picking their brains on a few things. But England to me was always the pinnacle. Always the pinnacle, yeah.
So that first, let me talk that first training session. So, brother, you reeled off some names.
Yeah.
Ince, Shearer. Did you feel?
Do you know who impressed me the most?
Talk to me.
Andy Cole.
Yeah.
Mate, I was thinking like, he's a goal scorer. Like he's tapping it in, mate. I just remember jumped out at me, mate. He was some player.
Do you know what? I think he don't get the respect.
His record, he didn't take penalties.
Yeah, I don't think he gets his kudoses. I do, man. Hey, Coley, we got to get you on there. That's another Coley. Do you know what I'm saying? But do you know the funny thing is, we're going to talk, one of your standout or iconic moments was your goal against Sweden.
Yeah.
So talking to the professional who did it, talk to me about that. Talk to me about that goal.
I wasn't like usually shooting from them kind of distance.
Yeah.
The only reason, it was just before half time. The only reason I struck it was, one, I quite like that technique on the volley where you hit it up like the paintbrush and you dip it.
Yeah.
But 2, I'd just done about 2 or 3 dribbles and I was exhausted, and I thought, right, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it. And it just, as it comes to it, I thought, oh, that. And as soon as you hit it, it's not like a real moment where you think, it's like time. People think you hit it, it's in the net within 2 seconds or less than a second. But I've hit it felt like an eternity, because I hit it, I'm like, and my brain's gone, I've hit that, nice. That's got a chance. Then you look at it and it just seemed to just dip. I thought, oh no, it's too much. And
it was. And
then it's gone in and it's nice. And the beautiful thing is, it's on the stage it's on. Do you know what I mean? So you scored a goal of that. So, I've heard some belting stories about where people I've had 2 people tell me that they named their kid Joe because they was like serious 2 people. Geezy the other night said, my missus went into labour the next day and you scored that goal, and I called my baby Joey. However old he is, I don't know.
It's wicked.
But
that's what football is.
Football does that, doesn't
it? It's beautiful.
My life is punctuated by World Cup moments like Gaza 90, 94, Baggio.
Yeah.
So to be part of that in other people's lives is nice.
For me, looking back at it now, that you can see that the cohesion or the culture. Not culture is a bit too strong of a word, but the cohesions was separated. So it was very, like you said, club. Did you feel it at the time as a whole, or just looking back at it now when you've got like Rio saying, you know what, didn't really mix. I mix more now with Gerrard than I did when I played, and the same with Scholesy. So did y'all? Was it because we've been in changing rooms? Was it like that?
You did feel it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But the other crucial thing was tactically. Now I love Sven, right? But Sven, what we needed was more of a plan in possession.
Okay.
You know, Sven was very much like an old 4-4-2. This is how we're doing it, and that's the way it is. Do you know what I mean? And it was a quality of the players that was winning us the game, whereas the system, we needed a system where we could hold on to the ball a little bit more. You know what I mean? So think of all the great players we had, like Gerrard, Beckham, Lampard. So they'd get the ball and they'd look forward for Rooney or Owen, and they'd try Weldy. And do you know what I mean? Maybe we need someone in there who's a bit more of a win the ball back, someone who's just going to get it and give it, get it and give it. So there's a lot of like, and we had no real build-up plan. We had a good off the ball. You know what I mean, don't you? Like that 4-4.
100%. Totally 100%.
And at international football, the game, you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And we play against Portugal, and we played against the midfielder Costinha, Maniche and Deco in 2006. I played with Maniche, I played with Deco, great players. But I think Gerrard, Lampard, with a little Hargreaves or a Carrick in there, would have been more than enough to run that midfield. But they just had more possession because they had an extra body in there and all that type of things. There's a little bit of that as well.
Let me ask just one question. Up until, or who was the first manager that you can remember that restricted you? So up on, what was the, you know, in regards to, you said you was pretty lucky because managers just said, oh, Joel, go play. Who was the first one?
Everyone would think it'd be Mourinho, but when I was playing at West Ham in the first team, I was playing in a lot of the times as in a midfield 4, as a 2. So you know, I can't just run off and do what I want. So I had some restrictions. I was playing directly up against Keane, Vieira's, and Gerrard's huge, big, powerful men. So there was a bit of that. Mourinho put me on the right, and so so I had more defensive responsibilities. But that was like, it's probably similar to what Bukayo Saka's doing for Arsenal a bit, maybe at the moment. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem as free, and he's a winger. I wasn't even a winger. I'm a midfielder. Do you know what I mean? So I just found myself in a position that had a lot of demands. But when you're winning games of football, you just move, don't you?
You just move.
Yeah.
When you're enjoying, you just move. All right. So you had a lot of success, both club and country. On a personal note for you, what would you say defined your career? I won't say like any of the trophies or anything like that. Do you know what? The thing I like most now is looking back, because I'm around a lot of ex-pundits on the telly and all that, and everyone, you know, so you see people bigging them up and all that. I like it when people say to me that they love watching me play football, because that's how I watch football. Like, I can only get excited to watch a footballer if I can't make myself get excited. I just know, like, I'll be going, let's just say, like last season, Jack Grealish. I like watching Jack Grealish play football. Okay. Do you know what I mean? I like watching him. I like watching James Maddison play football. Kudos at when he was at West Ham. Not so much Tottenham, but we'll move. You know what I mean? But like, I like watching Haaland actually, because I think he's just like, so it ain't just has to be a technical player. Have to be technical.
It's like you're doing something.
You like, for me, it's like you like individuals who are unapologetically self-authentic in their gameplay. But again, it comes back to you being a football purist. I keep coming back to that. Looking back now, give me a single performance and goal in your career that you just are like,
Chelsea, when we beat Barcelona 4-2 in the Champions League. Remember the Ronaldinho thing?
Yeah.
I think I set a couple of goals up. But just the whole night was special. It's the first night I've experienced a massive European night against the best team. The best team. Messi, Ronaldinho, Eto'o, Xavi, all the boys were there.
But what is that like? Like, because I do want to ask you, right, because I know you're a football purist. I know you're very wired in regards to it's actually football. It's 11 man on the pitch. You know what I'm saying? And I get all that.
Yeah.
But that, just there, that's Messi, Eto'o, Ronaldinho. They're all on the same pitch. You get to tackle them, flick it over. So what's that like?
So the only thing, right, is like, so once I'm on the pitch, I'm on the pitch, right? But what's first time we played at the new camp, moment just before we're going out, and there's a little chapel like thing where they go in.
It's like you're looking at me like I played there.
Yes.
It's not like Atkinson, brother. This is how you talk. This is how you was. New camp. You know the church. No, this is where we were. Go on.
It's a little like, it felt spiritual. I remember thinking to myself, mate, Maradona must have been in there, and like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cruyff and all that, and I'm thinking, this is proper now.
Okay.
And that's what it was like. But on the pitch, they was incredible. They were like, talk about tactically being aware. They just controlled the midfield. It felt like, when you're counting bodies, like thinking they've got 12 or 13 on here.
Yeah.
That was special.
Standout goal for you? I
think the Sweden. No, I would say the one that I loved, because I think it is me as a player, is the goal against Manchester United when we won the league for the second time. Yeah, that is me. That's, if when I'd leave this plane, people say, what was he like as a footballer? I'd say, that's what I'd like to be. I'd like to think I had moments like that could do that. So
yeah. When I watch that, this is why I keep coming back to you, and I'll always, because we're the same era, same time. That's like Market Road, Joe Cole, that he did on the biggest stage at the biggest time. Duppy it back, roll, finish it, and celebrate. That for me was just, I was like, okay, seen that, and he's done that. So let me say, looking back now, through what we've been discussing, would you change anything?
No, because that's a dangerous way to start thinking. And we like I said, we do it naturally, right? Like when we miss, I would have just scored that chance, I would have just done that. But I don't think in life you can do, because you're here. Do you know what I mean? I'm where I'm meant to be. Yeah.
I'm massive family orientated. And you came out recently talking about your struggles, especially which coincided with when your pops passed and coming to the nearing ending of your career. And I touched on it because I think mentally, one, we don't talk about this enough. But going through that process, I don't even like to say bounce back, but that mental side, how was that process?
Retiring for any footballer, it's a big change, right? And so then on top of that, and then family, like losing your dad, who's a big part of my life. I'm the same as you. Family's everything to me. Family and friends. I still got the people, my friends growing up with, and you sort of you have to grow up fast after football, because it's such a good life. We can still be kids, can't we? Right up until them days when we hang up the boots, and then you're into the real world, right? It hits some people hard. I was lucky, right, because I've got good people around me, and I've always like you said, I'm like, right, bang, on to the next thing, and just try. I just try and look after all my people, and try and look after myself a little bit. Try and do a few things that I couldn't do when I was playing. So what came first when it came to retirement, as in readiness, physically or mentally, or did it coincide both? No, physically I was like, because of my knee, right? So
I'm with you.
So if I would have if I'd have hung up my boots at 31, 32, I wouldn't have had the next 4 or 5 years of. I think I played till I was just before my 37th birthday in America, which I loved.
Yeah.
Mentally, was I ready to retire? Not really. Losing my dad, probably because I was in America, then I was like, I just need to get home for family. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't want to go and play in the lower leagues. Not because I still love football, but my body. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I want to make sure I don't need the money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I still played football afterwards. I went and started a pub team with my mates. So we started playing the Sunday League, right?
Yeah.
which was the nice little way to come down from it.
You
know what I mean? Because we're like, I'm still playing. Still enjoying it.
Back to this,
and back to the pure love, turning up, freezing cold, no showers. Do you know what I mean?
That just sounds like hell to me.
Some plasterer from Hackney smashing me. I'm just like, mate, do you know what I mean? Like, and I loved it. I loved it, man. And I'd give it back, and then we'd do it, and then we all, we'll go to the pub afterwards for a few, and it was very nice. So
you know what I'm saying? I think you've touched on it generally loosely, right? But of course, you was compared to the likes of Gascoigne, Zidane, that creativity. So when people talk about your style now, is that how you like to be referred to?
Like I said, that is the win for me. It's like people the love I get, like, for how I played. That genuinely that means a lot. I don't ever try and take it for granted. Because, and sometimes it's like you're rushing. I'm like, oh, would you do this?
I feel you.
I need to go, but I'm like, okay, I just try and give the love back a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because I was that kid who was wanting to be Gazza at one point. Do you know what I mean? It's so yeah, I'm blessed.
Talk to me about modern day football in your opinion, how football's evolved, right? And I touched on it loosely in saying, the way football is now, it's know what I'm saying when I say maverick. It's done its, but there's less characters in the game. There's less inventiveness in the game. It's very much, it seems like tactic to tactic, manager to manager. Talk to me about your view of modern day football, especially as I say, you're a football purist.
I think we was behind tactically for many, many years, and I think the pendulum swung a little bit, and there's too much onus on the data and the tacticalness. You need both, right? But you need to find a middle ground,
right?
And I want to say, I'll use this as an example, right? And nobody, if I'm pitching for a job and I'm saying the reason Argentina won the World Cup, right, was because they had a feel. The players there was a streetwiseness to the players. There was a feel to the players, and they had the freedom. Do you remember the Holland game? They were 2-0 up and cruising. Holland got back into the game, 2-2, and it was falling apart for Argentina, right? And you can think of that history of that country, right? They've fallen apart a lot in big games. Messi was retired because he was like, I can't do this no more. The pressure, I'm done, right? Yeah. So imagine that moment, right? They were gone. Holland were on the ascendancy. Holland were the only team that was going to score. I think it was Rodrigo de Paul just run up and just smashed the ball into the dugout of the Dutch, caused a massive brawl. Mayhem. Something in him like, just, this has got to stop.
We've got to stop this momentum or whatever.
Right. Now, I don't think the players, he took charge of that, and he could have been ostracised. He gets sent off, say for instance. He never ever had to set back in Argentina again, right? But he had the bravery to do the madness because he felt it, and he was like, and I think our players going to this World Cup, they need a little bit of that. And I look at Jude Bellingham, I'm like, he's got it, and he's getting chastised, and he does need to control it a little bit, but don't lose it, because that's the player. In a moment, he needs to feel like, you need to take this down to where it needs to go to win it.
So let me ask you a question. Who's somebody that's been at the very pinnacle, been at the elite, right? You can identify and see we need a little bit of, again, I'll use the word maverick, but we need a little bit of, you take the onus, you pick it up. But on the other side, there's this, we've gone the other way. So how then does he maneuver, or not just him, even when Maddison, how does that happen where we then get the best, not just, of course, for England going forward, but how do you get that balance? How does the world see that we need a little bit of an edge?
So if I've been in that England dressing room in big tournaments and all that, and I think what I would do if I was England manager, first of all, you'd have a culture that you set, and you'd have conditions and what non-negotiables, and that would have been imprinted, and then you'd have a style of play, and then you'll have a tactic on how to win, and it will tweak. You're not going to play the same way against France. You're going to play against Iceland. But the fundamentals are the same, and it's going to be a squad game. And I think what you need to make the players realise, we're winning this World Cup or we're leaving, knowing we ain't left ourselves wanting.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, don't go out, win a whimper, and just this wasn't working. And if it's not working, boys, I trust you on the pitch. I trust you. It's your team. You're together. And if you get knocked out, if someone misses a penalty, someone does it, you're going to get on that plane, then you're all going to go on holiday with your beautiful families, beautiful wives, and you're going to still be footballers, and you're going to all start again. So don't worry about, they need to get that fear of failure out of the players. And it's not just one conversation. That's got to be a mindset of what you are. And I think that's the message you've got to get onto the players. If I was England manager, that would take front and centre above everything else. It would be in the relationships between the players, because what it's like. There'll be a little ego here, a little ego there, and they got to come together and play. They got to feel like they are brothers in arms, and that whatever, do you know what I mean? They're going to go to war with each other. They need to feel that.
See, the maddest thing is, I feel like generally most football, we do that. Me and you play in a team, and we're on the front line. You know what I'm saying? And if you do get a good culture, then you're like, cool, doesn't matter what. And what I would say is, I feel like there was, where you say the Gareth Southgate, there was that element, right? And then, again, and I think the media play a massive part in this, and then all of a sudden a narrative gets seeped, and then you feel this energy and presence around crowd. So now Bellingham, all of a sudden, has gone from the person that's going to win us the World Cup to the person who won't because of his ego or and it only goes, we only get this narrative from the media. So that's why I say outside looking in, because you've been there, how hard is it to have that balance of, okay, cool, rogue or a little bit of edge as a collective, to then...
Well, the manager's got to give them ownership. And the players have got to feel enabled to do that. If you go out there worrying about being a gentleman, the Argentinians won't, the Brazilians won't. Do you know what I mean? The Italians won't. Do you know, first of all, what are we? Are we going to win the World Cup, or are we going to go and be gentlemanly and be very, nice, and maybe we'll win it. Now, if we're going to go and win it, we're going to have to be nasty. We're going to have to be together. We're going to have to take a lot of risks, and they might go wrong. And if they go wrong, we go out the World Cup, and you've all got to be okay with that. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not going to take the risks. Do you know what I mean? And the manager's got to be like, look, you got to show the lads. No, you don't have to show that. You have to believe it in your heart, which I think you have to minimize it for yourself. You have to be like, right. And it's because it's true, the football's important. It's going to be the most important thing that we all look at in the summer in the world. But at the end of the day, the world keeps spinning afterwards. So why would you not go out there and just give it your all and just come together for 6 weeks, and then you'd all have knighthoods. Do you know what I mean? You'd be able to print
public holiday.
You'll be printing money in 40 years' time. You'll all be still, I don't know, selling lawnmowers or something. So why would you worry about it? And genuinely, that's my belief. And that if I was managing at that level, that's more important than anything else. Absolutely anything else.
Listen, I agree, and I do think to a certain degree they've got elements of that. I do think that also the publication of the media have to buy into that as well. That, look, man, they're going to go all that. Not saying that anybody's, above criticism. If they fall short, they fall short. I mean, England should be favourites to win the World Cup. So if you fall short, criticism's criticism. But if you see that they're together and they're coming together, don't break down what they're trying to accomplish. But I'm going to ask something, right? Declan Rice came out and said the Premier League's the hardest it's been for him, I think, this season ever, right? I'm going to ask you something. Are you somebody who kind of don't compare eras, or would you look at it now and say this Premier League era is the toughest ever?
I don't compare eras because I think the rules have changed, the equipment's changed, the balls have changed, the techniques and tactics change, everything's changed. But I understand what Declan's saying in the sense that there's some mad results in there, like Wolves going to beat Liverpool, like
don't do that again, cuz don't remind me, cuz come on, G.
Do you know what I mean? It's a mental results, and like I look at teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, and that I'm like, they're a game for anybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but you can't compare.
Let me. So I'm gonna, because I ain't played it, so I ain't gotta be as PC as you.
Yeah,
in
go
regards,
on, you tell
right?
me.
So I look at, even when you mentioned the 2008 Champions League final in regards to the final, Man U, Chelsea, and you just reeled off the players that took the penalty shootouts against each other. And you reeled off earlier that it's in a 4-4-2, was up against the Gerrards, the Scholes, the Vieiras, the Keanes, you know what I'm saying? And of course, that's the era I grew up in, watching, played in the EFL. You played it, right? So when I look to compare, and I agree, I do think a lot of things that was going on back then with modern day football and technology, you probably couldn't do it. And maybe a lot of them goals would have been called up. So, you know, I understand, but as a whole, as a qualityness in regards to the standard of players, I do think it's chalk and cheese personally.
Yeah,
I do think
that's
that was
a fair
a lot.
point.
So I understand, because I think whatever you're playing in is what you're playing, and Declan Rice only knows his era. Do you know what I'm saying? So we can only talk about it. But if I stand out looking, I look at it now and I'm like, no, but them times it was a lot more competitive, even though there is the shock results, the Wolves, the Brighton Bournemouths, the Sunderland's come up and, you know, done some stuff. I understand all that, and I think that's why we'll always love football, because it will keep throwing up, you know what I'm saying, these results. But if you're comparing competitiveness in regards to, I just think that the area I played in was so amazing.
I get you. One thing I would agree with you on, it was better to watch back then. I don't think that's in question. I don't think that's in question. VAR, nobody's on Instagram while the game's going on, which plays a part.
What's your take on VAR? Don't know if I've asked you.
Rubbish. Like, it's just like, I'm just tired of talking about it. I'm trying to be PC. It's just nonsense. People need to.
But listen, to me, I've already said I could chat to you forever.
Likewise,
and
man.
It's real bars. Listen, even when I look back at it and the research, and I was like, what you achieved in the game, you know what I'm saying? And even the bit talking about the mental side of it, both Liverpool, you know, the Pops, the retirement, I think people need to hear about it, and, you know, the bravery, and just on all sides of it. So I can't salute you enough. You know what I'm saying? We came from the same era. You know what I'm saying? One of the Force Horsemen in there, and what you went on to achieve in the game. So in my era, there was nobody even came close. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, it's a beautiful thing. Y'all should be proud, man. And Bob, thanks for your time, man. You get me? Love every time, brother.
Big up, man.
Bye, bro.